PM's speech sounds like a confident motivational speech, but it is a travesty of the reality of a middle-class family living in an unpredictable economy. In both worlds, the nature of the creative industry remains the same. It is volatile and it is not as controllable as what PM wants you to believe. Let me elucidate. Trevor Noah started his career in the creative industry in 2002, and his career really took off in 2015, and that is literally one of the most smartest and talented people in the creative industry. This clearly proves that gaining success in the creative industry is definitely not as easy as what PM painted it to be. Two quick clarifications on opposition's counterfactual before I move on. Firstly, on a better context of this motion, because PM failed to give you that. The context of this debate is for young adult children who's probably going to choose their major for university, or those who are in university but facing a dilemma regarding their life path. So on our side, we as parents would encourage these children to not sacrifice their higher education for things like doing part-time jobs as content creators or in design. Secondly, on PM's strategic flaw. Before I go to my responses, I need to call out the PM on a massive strategic mistake in his case. Judge, all the benefits in his speech hang on one questionable and feeble characterizations on both middle-class families and creative skills or careers. The characterization that PM gave you about middle-class family was too simplistic and not nuanced. Think about it. These two elements are crucial in this motion because this is an actor motion, thus we have to argue from the perspective of a middle-class parents. So they cannot get away with giving us false characterizations of the actors in this debate. Before I move on to my arguments, a few points of rebuttal towards side proposition. Firstly, on the principles of parenting, they give you two principles. Firstly, that they have to provide the right guidance based on their past experience and maximize their child's potential. And secondly, they have to let their child choose their own paths. Why is this principle wrong for side proposition? First, let's get it straight. The ultimate goals of parenting are in two folds. Firstly, to guide their children based on what they know best and their lived experience. And secondly, to rationalize their children and introduce them to the reality of the world. Specifically, in the context of a middle-class parent, parents must be more careful at giving advice and supporting their children's decisions because they have no safety nets. We are not saying that parents eventually are perfect, but we think the intention that parents have towards their children would be for the best and they would be able to guide them better because of their own experiences. Secondly, children who are passionate about creative skills might not totally comprehend the consequences of deprioritizing formal education. They're still incredibly young and immature, and they have no real-world experience that can actually ensure that they make the correct decisions. This means that it is the parent's duty to relay that information. So what is the weighing here, Judge? We provide you with a more realistic and ideal principle of parenting, specifically catered to the reality of a middle-class family which has less options and safety nets. Compare it with PM's very vague principle of parenting, our principle thrives. Secondly, the response on maximization of agency and opportunities. They gave a feeble analysis that the job market is evolving and social media is very important. We do agree to that the job market is always evolving as well as society as a whole. That means social media changes. The need for social media or which platform is trending will always change, exactly like how Instagram is overtaken by TikTok suddenly. So why is it better on our side? Formal education is far more reliable. This has been proved for a very long time that there is a demand for it, that all sectors need someone with economic or legal background. So what is the weighing here? Formal education would fulfill the maximization of agency and opportunities because it is a much more sustainable option. We think exactly this is the path that gives more guaranteed opportunities to these kids. Responses done, let's move on to our positive case. I'm going to forward two arguments in my speech. Firstly, why good parenting caters to the children's economic circumstances, and secondly, why opposition eliminates unpredictable future factors that might tamper with children's happiness once they're adults. On to my first point about how good parenting caters to their children's economic circumstances. The premise of this argument is simple and clear. Parenting must be catered to the reality that the family faces. That is to say, supporting the child's decisions to deprioritize formal education violates the most important principle of ideal and effective parenting. Let's characterize middle-class families. The dynamics of a middle-class family is far from what PM told you. The unique characterization of them are that firstly, in terms of financial stability, they are surviving, but they don't have the luxury to have a diverse range of choices. Judge, if you look at the hierarchy of society, you would know that a middle-class family is most likely a family that just climbed the financial ladder from low-income families. We suggest that they have less options or choices due to their backgrounds. We are talking about families that most probably would not be able to give their children safety nets. And secondly, middle class is not safe in this economy because they are prone to financial instability because their income is contingent on how well the company they're working for is. So given that context, let me present my host of analysis. Firstly, the first host of analysis is about how your main job as a parent, in principle, is to provide the best guidance based on your own experiences. The guidance towards children must be contextualized to the situation of the parent's economic circumstances. So the core responsibility of parents until their children are adults is to make sure that the moment parents have no control upon their children's lives, children would still be able to make the correct decisions and be able to actually lead a stable life. So let's analyze the characteristics of teenagers. Firstly, they have no comprehensive thought process regarding consequences, and secondly, their passion are usually so fiery and overclouds their judgment. So the glorification of the highlight of people's career in the creative industry is incredibly misleading and harms the children who believes in this even more. Exactly because most children only looks at the success of a particular person, they usually don't see the struggles behind it. So the second host of analysis here, why not supporting the child to deprioritize their education is far better. Let's draw the comparative. Formal education are much more reliable, that is to say that in most cases you would graduate from university and get a job that pays well and reliably. If you go to the non-traditional route and choose to go to the creative industry, then there is no guarantee that you would be even able to make money exactly because it isn't sustainable. So why are careers in the creative industry not guaranteed success? Firstly, creative industries such as content creation and digital career are highly integral to social media, which is highly unpredictable. Secondly, there is so much uncertainty in this career, three parameters why in comparison with careers that require formal education, creative industry is uncertain. Because firstly, building your digital career takes a lot of time to build your portfolio in the digital realm, especially if you're middle class and you don't have that much time. Secondly, it is out of your control. For example, there are no reports from bosses, no yearly performance reviews. And thirdly, it's the success that you gain is not even sustainable. There is a cancel culture now where if you're a very famous content creator, when you slip, you're going to be scrutinized and canceled immediately. And your success is based on things outside of your control, like the algorithm and development of trends. Thirdly, you need luck to be successful, and that is not in your control. So we do concede that some people are lucky enough to be able to achieve success in digital careers, but that is a very, very marginal number of people. We proved to you how prioritizing formal education is actually in line with the goals of parenting and why, in principle, we take this debate. But on to my second point, why opposition eliminates unpredictable future factors that might tamper with children's happiness once they're adults. The premise of this argument is that middle-class parents making the decision whether to support their child's choice should focus on cost and benefit for the long term, because at the end of the day, parenting is about preparing the child to be functioning, independent adults. It gives you financial security that you won't receive otherwise. This is especially essential in a fluctuating and changing economy that at the very least you have this job that pays well and you can save a portion of your income, etc. This path takes away the stress of financial insecurity, of wondering how you can afford food. You have less factors that can tamper with your happiness on our side. Obviously, we can't predict whether these children will be successful, but at the very least we can make sure that our guidance will create a path that eliminates more factors that can tamper with their happiness in the long run. For that reason, we beg you to side with opposition.